game development is hard. It's very complex. It's harder than anything. It's not rocket science,
Of course,
but
of
it's
course.
very complex. And my journey with video games started when I was 6 years old. When my parents got me that first Nintendo knockoff. So I couldn't imagine myself wearing those ties and formal dresses and going to. And one day I was having dinner with my parents and I just brought it up for them. Ki, "Aapko kya lagta hai? I'll go to office and do 9 to 5 job." And my parents were shocked.
Wow.
They were like, "Then what will you do? You're studying for MBA and you're doing your engineering. What will you do then?" I got this offer. The salaries were very low. Like I joined at just 12,000 rupees.
Yeah.
Can you imagine? In
I can, because I did for 11,000. Dude, the situation was that.
Yeah,
that time, this was more than. See, for us, for me at least, it was like, andar aa gaya na gaming.
Yeah,
Now,
definitely.
we'll figure out.
Actually, before that, my journey into game development more passionate was. Before that, I played a lot of competitive gaming. You don't know this, but from 2007 to 2010, I started playing Call of Duty Pro Mode. That was in 2007. Then later on, I moved to Battlefield Bad Company 2. And at that time, we didn't have any marketing money. So, how could we solve this with zero marketing money? So, this was the only way for us to pitch it to Apple. And if Apple loves it, and this was completely. So, people don't also realize that.
All right, cool. Welcome to the Great Indian Gaming Podcast, Himanshu, brother.
Thank you for having me here. Good to see you in Mumbai.
Yeah.
Great studio, by the way.
Thank you, man. You here for the gaming conference, right?
Yes, I'm here for the gaming con.
कैसा था event?
It was great, yeah. I mean, for the first year, I think they have pulled off some great stuff, some amazing games to see, and the indie zone especially.
Yeah.
They have given the booths for free for the first time. This was happening for the first time, right?
Yeah, this is the first year.
Yeah.
Before this, they had something called as IGX, which used to happen in the same Nesco center, but
Okay.
it was way bigger than this, and that was like specifically for B2C.
Okay.
But it was bigger.
Okay.
But good that they have clubbed this
Yeah.
development side also.
Yeah.
It was smaller, but still it was action packed.
Yeah, it was filled with all the good stuff.
Yeah.
And there was B2B angle and B2C angle as well.
Yeah.
So, and there were talks, great talks. You were also part of the panel.
It was fun, man.
Yeah, it
I was
fun.
not expecting so many people to actually, stay there and listen to the talks. While there was a lot of gaming stuff happening around at the PS booths, there was a PlayStation and all those booths happening, right? There was an F1 car over there.
Yeah, that was amazing
Yeah.
to see an F1 car right there.
Yeah, but still people were listening to all the panels. They were straight up listening to, because I think there is a need that people
Yeah.
actually want to listen to what's happening on the development side of the
Yeah.
industry.
Yes.
The gaming side, we all know it's been in the spotlight for a long time. Younger folks, 17, 18-year-old kids playing games, streaming games, but the main reason why I also started the podcast is because I wanted to bring in the people who are actually building games.
Yeah.
You're one of those. You're one of those indie rock stars I've known for like 10 years now.
Yeah. More than 10 years.
More than 10 years. A lot of people know you, but just for the newer audience also, tell us who you are and what you're doing.
So I'll start with the very beginning. My name is Himanshu, and my journey with video games started when I was 6 years old. When my parents got me that first Nintendo knockoff, the
Yeah.
Chinese, made by a Chinese manufacturer.
Mitashi? No.
That was Media.
Media. Okay.
At that time, Media and Samurai used
Yeah,
to be
yeah.
the two biggest companies in India. They
Yeah.
were Chinese companies who had these consoles
Consoles.
of
Yeah.
NES games.
This
back
was
then.
the CD or the cassette you are talking about?
These were the cassettes where you blow.
Blow. The hack.
The
The
hack.
ultimate hack we had.
Yeah. 6 in 1,
6 in
99
1.
in 1.
And that was a scam, by the way.
Yeah.
999 in 1 was a scam because there were only 9 games.
Repeated,
Yeah.
different, yeah.
Yeah.
And then I always used to pick the cassettes which had the least amount of games because then they could put in more amount of games with higher memory.
Yeah. Otherwise, the whole cassette had the same games repeated.
Repeated with,
Yeah.
with different formulas.
Yeah.
So that was very fun while growing up. I played different. I remember playing Double Dragon, Contra, like Mario. Those
Crazy
were the-
games, man.
Yeah.
I don't know, like today, I don't think Contra would be something that these people can finish. they think Wukong is difficult? No. Contra was a monster challenge.
Yeah, they were the actual
Actual-
hardcore games.
Yeah.
And I remember playing these Sega games. Sega had these controller where the 6 buttons used to be there.
Yeah.
So we couldn't afford that at that time. But we used to go to video game parlors to play these WWF.
I know.
And-
A lot of people from our age
Yeah.
have gotten beaten up by their parents because of that.
Well, I was fortunate that my parents always supported my
It's crazy, man.
my hobbies, and they, at a very early age I started playing games, and my parents got me the first computer when I was in 6th standard,
Okay.
and this was year 2000. At that time, the compact wala computer with
Yeah,
Celeron
oh, wow.
processor.
Oh, wow.
Pentium, like it was just about Pentium 2 but below Pentium 3,
Yeah.
and with just 8 MB RAM.
Yeah, I had the same 8 MB RAM,
Uh,
but mine was 386, which is 386, 486, Pentium 1, Pentium 2, and all those.
Those were the times, like
Yeah, the black and white one. But yeah, interesting. So that is something that you got your hands on at an early age, and
Yeah.
that's why you slowly got interested in games.
yeah.
What about the research? Like, did you happen to research about how these games are made, or just a wildest dream to get into the gaming?
Back then, it wasn't an idea for me that I have to get into games.
Yeah.
For me, it was more of a passion and a hobby
Mhm.
that I enjoy playing games.
Okay.
The idea for making games came much later into my life,
Mhm.
when I was doing my college degree in engineering, and I was studying for MBA.
Okay.
While I was studying for my MBA, I had this crazy thought that why am I studying this? Why am I doing this? I don't want to go to office wearing these
Formals.
formal dresses and go do 9 to 5 jobs.
Yeah.
That they didn't
We all-
excite me.
I think we all looked stupid in those formals, because I used to look stupid for sure.
Me too. So I couldn't imagine myself wearing those ties and formal dresses and going to and one day we were having this discussion. We were having dinner I was having dinner with my parents, and I just brought it up for them कि आपको क्या लगता है? I'll go to office and do 9 to 5 job, and my parents were shocked.
Wow.
They were like, then what will you do? You're studying for MBA and you're doing your engineering. What will you do then? Then I said, I want to make games. At that moment, my father asked me, okay, how? And this was year 2009, where game development wasn't even heard of. There were hardly any companies. There were
Yeah.
hardly 10 companies across India.
Yeah.
We were
I was working in one of those.
Yeah, you started in
Games,
2009.
9 only. I actually started in 2007, but then there was a gap of 1.5 years. I was jobless, but then 2009 was Games to Win.
Okay.
Yeah, but you're right, because there were only 10 to 12 companies.
Yeah.
Fun fact, I was a game designer and I knew all the game designers in India, because ऐसा होता था ना कि 10-12 companies में जितने भी game designers थे,
Mm.
they just used to rotate
Yes.
within the companies.
Yeah,
So a guy who quits Hangama goes to Zapak. This one Games to Win guy goes to Hangama, and all that's the circle. That's the only circle.
Yeah, there were hardly any people into game development at that
Yeah.
time. It wasn't even a known profession in India.
Mm.
And we were still, the iOS didn't, like this was pre-iOS,
Pre-iOS.
this was pre-Android.
Yeah.
And then I decided to just jump into it. I didn't know what will happen.
Yeah.
It was more of a gut feeling that no, I have to make games. Since I grew up playing these games, I want to understand in and out of it. And it
But tell me something. Smartphones were not there.
yeah,
Symbian phones were there. Java,
Yeah.
Brew
Yeah.
games were there. Keypad games.
Yeah.
That was one category. There was PC games which we all played,
Yeah.
and then there were web-based games.
right.
What exactly you had in your mind? Because smartphone hota to then I can imagine you wanted to make mobile games.
Yeah.
But in these three categories, I'm sure you played all of these
Yeah.
three categories. And while you were thinking of doing a career,
Mhm.
what was your focus? Where were you looking at?
It wasn't planned at that time. All I wanted to know, I want to make games.
Make games, that's it.
Whatever platform
Yeah.
is there.
Yeah.
Since we grew up playing a lot of PC games and these early NES games,
Yeah.
for me it was more of a PC game.
Yeah.
I was driven by those PC games. I was inspired from StarCraft. I played a lot of strategy games
Yeah.
while growing up.
Age of
Lot
Empires
Age of
was-
Empires,
Damn.
Dawn of War. So
Command and Conquer.
Command and Conquer, Red Alert. Oh man, that music,
Crazy.
that Hell March music is still.
Yeah.
So the idea was just to get into game industry anyhow, and I want to make games. And from the beginning, I had this thought that I want to start my own.
Hmm.
And after my engineering, I decided to join a gaming college. I researched across, like at that time there were hardly any formal education
Correct.
providing in game development at that
Correct.
time.
We don't have it today also, but there are few people who are at
There
least-
are still a
Yeah.
lot more opportunities now. There
Yeah.
are still a lot more courses. You have communities.
Yeah.
Engines are there. They
Correct.
have there we have different institutes who are actually teaching game development
Correct.
now.
Correct.
But back then it wasn't anything.
Nothing.
And back then there was no social media
Yeah.
that I could search on. There was no YouTube
Yeah.
properly.
Yeah.
So all I had was Orkut.
Oh damn, that's nostalgia.
So
You found someone on Orkut who was playing games, who was making games.
Yeah. So actually, before that, my journey into game development, like why I was more passionate to get into game development was, before that, I played a lot of competitive gaming. A lot of people don't know this, but from 2007 to 2010, I started playing Call of Duty Pro Mode. That was in 2007.
Oh, okay. So you
And-
competed in the
Yeah,
competition.
yeah. And then later on, I moved to Battlefield Bad Company 2.
Okay.
And played that game as competitive at an international level as well.
Wow.
We had competitions across different countries, and back then there used to be a clan called XNK. If anyone has been into
Esports.
Battlefield, they would know XNK. They were
And I think there was no esports term also.
there was no esports stuff
Yeah.
at that time, but back then it was more of a passion.
Yeah.
It was just that's what we enjoyed doing,
Yeah.
and they became friends for life. I mean, those were the people I used to be online with them on
Yeah.
TeamSpeak. Xfire used to be there.
Yeah.
Discord wasn't there.
Yeah.
So Xfire used to be there. I remember back then. And we used to be online all the time, playing games like 12 hours straight, practicing for skirmish, like our tournaments and everything.
Did you hear about WCG, World Cyber Game Competition? Was
No, I didn't have
between 2004 to 2006 or something. I competed, like I participated in it. I used to play FIFA.
Oh wow.
And I went into quarterfinals of 2005, I guess.
Okay. Okay.
WCG, which happened in Mumbai. And then I lost to a guy who beat me 7-0. And then that's it. Then I didn't compete. But yeah, but that was crazy times.
Yeah.
I can't believe, like when I now think about it, 2005, and the whole Powai area outside that gully area was jam packed with people who wanted to participate.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just like in one location, so many people playing games who wanted to compete.
Yeah. Yeah. Back then, FIFA was popular. Unreal Tournament was very popular.
Halo was there.
Halo was there. NFS was there.
Yeah.
So yeah, these were the games which.
But
people
you
were
didn't
doing.
think of continuing that as a career? I'm sure there was no career in that.
So I reached to a point where I was almost 21 years old because I was in my final year of engineering, and I thought that I have peaked
Okay.
at that time, because for a gamer, as a professional gamer, as esports player, I understood that by 22 you will peak.
Okay.
That's the max you can go.
Mhm.
And then after that I decided, no, I shouldn't put my efforts over here. I should rather, go into game development and learn more about it.
A more respectable career.
No, esports is also very
But at that time it was.
It wasn't.
Dude, game development was
Yeah.
not a respectable. Yeah. What about playing games?
Yeah. It's still like gaming overall hasn't been like perceived very well by the society, especially in India. Like if you are playing games, like society thinks that you are wasting your
Of
time,
course.
and they don't see it as a career. They don't see it as a hobby. Uh, but yeah, I still wanted to do it.
Yeah, yeah. So then you started figuring out how to get
Yeah.
into game development.
Yeah.
Crazy. So how did that formulate into you starting your own company, Xigma Games?
So I wanted to start my career from the very beginning. As soon as I joined the game development college, I had an idea that I want to start something on my own
Okay.
someday.
Okay. Which college or institute you?
That was ICAT.
Psych at?
So after my engineering, I did my post-grad from ICAT in the year 2010.
Okay. Okay.
And it was just 1 year course. And before I could even finish that course, in the 10 months itself, I got a job offer
Okay.
from a company called RZ2 Games.
RZ2.
Yeah, they were very big back then. It was founded by a US founder. He came back. He came back to India and he started his second company.
Okay.
His first company was actually acquired by Sony. That's called Red Zone,
Okay.
and that's what the RZ2 stood for. That's
Okay.
Red Zone 2.
Okay.
Uh, and they were based in Goa, and I got a
What a place to work in.
yeah, I wish I could say that, but I didn't have any money at that time. I was still very poor, and I got this offer. The salaries were very low. Like I joined at just 12,000 rupees.
Yeah.
Can you
Yeah.
imagine?
Yeah.
2000
I can because I did for 11,000.
No,
Dude, the situation was that.
Yeah,
And
the
that time, this was more than enough. See, for us, for me at least, it was like, andar aa gaya na gaming.
Yeah, definitely.
Now, we'll figure out.
Yeah, yeah,
Money is the secondary problem.
Yeah.
We'll figure out.
yeah.
Yeah.
So when I was in college, when I was taking the admission, I told my teacher, like my faculty, that I want to start my own studio.
Yeah.
And then he said one thing to me that has stuck to me. He said, to be the king one day, you have to be the pawn first.
Yeah. Nice.
So that's when I thought, okay, I'll work,
Yeah.
I'll learn, and then I'll accumulate all the knowledge, then I'll use it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's where I joined RZ2 Games with a very basic salary, and this was a time when my friends were actually moving abroad because after engineering,
Yeah. Yeah.
they had good offers on the
Good
table.
offers. 5-6 lakhs was like a minimum
Yeah.
that
3 lakhs was the
people's-
starting, but
yeah.
that was still like 30,000-40,000 respectable
Yeah.
money.
Yeah.
And they had good growth also,
Yeah.
like from their career. Gaming wasn't even known back then. It was a
Yeah.
very high risk
Yeah.
game.
Very high.
And also I had offers from companies after engineering, and I chose not to sit in the campus
Yeah.
and instead go for game development.
Got it.
So
Got it.
I joined the company in RZ2 Games. I learned a lot over there, and that's where I picked up Unity.
Okay.
We used to make those J2ME games back then.
Okay.
Uh,
The
those-
smartphone games.
The smartphone games, the
Okay.
Symbian, Nokia 66.
Symbian games. Okay.
Symbian. This is pre-smartphone.
I know.
Feature
the
phones.
keypad wala.
Yeah, the Symbian phones
Yeah.
with J2ME games.
Yeah.
Nokia 6600
Correct.
was very popular back
Correct.
then. So I started with that. Reskinned a lot of games, like over 100 games. I must have
Okay.
reskinned during that phase, and I learned a lot. I learned back end, front end. I learned how the whole game development happens.
Okay. So core skill was programming.
Core skill was programming.
Okay.
I learned game development.
I didn't know this, man.
Okay.
I've been imagining you as a game designer for a long time.
So
You eventually did everything, but that's how you started with programming.
yes, I started my career as a game developer, as a game programmer.
Got it.
And I worked on a lot of different engines. I worked on AND engine was popular, Torque was popular, back
Top
then.
man.
UDK was there. So
XNA.
XNA. Yeah, that was 2010.
Yeah.
Flash was there.
Yeah.
Action script.
I know.
So yeah, I was a game programmer. Although I didn't enjoy game programming very much,
Yeah.
like honestly.
I know. I get the feeling. I get the exact feeling because Programming, you can start with it,
Yeah.
but you can't stay for a long if you don't love or enjoy it.
Yeah.
I've been through that. I was a software developer.
Yeah.
Used to just do that like 9 hours job. I used to finish it in 1 hour, and I didn't know what to do next and all that stuff. And then I used to open the stock 3D XNA in a company which had no connection with gaming. So, but I knew for a fact that ये मेरे से 20 साल programming नहीं होने वाला. I can't continue this.
Yeah, तो मेरा भी it was same for me. I knew this was an entry for me because getting a job as a game designer is a little tougher than compared to a game developer.
Yeah.
And also I wasn't an artist. Like I didn't know how to. I knew how to do basic models.
Yeah.
But I wasn't an artist.
Correct.
And I didn't want to pursue in that direction. So game development was the only option for me to get into the game industry.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a very good experience at RZ2 Games. Learned a lot, made a lot of different games. We were making a multiplayer racing game back then. Unfortunately, never released.
Okay.
But it gave
Good experience.
Good lot of experience.
Yeah. Got it. So which year did you actually? So after RZ2, you directly started Xigma Games.
So before starting my own company, we kind of dabbled the idea of making our own games.
Who is we?
So me and my colleagues, me and my friends, Govardhan, who is my now co-founder.
Okay.
So Govardhan and I
love that guy, man. Govi is one of the quietest guy outside.
Yeah.
But he has a lot in his head. Once you crack it, he'll gel with you.
Yeah.
And then it's fun.
Yeah, he's reserved. He doesn't speak a lot, and we are contrast to each other.
I know.
And we have very different personalities.
Yeah.
I think that has worked.
It
very
does.
well.
It usually, that is how co-founders work, right?
Yeah.
It has to be complementing each other's skills,
Yeah.
and that happens really well with you also.
Yes. So we used to discuss in college days itself. So we both studied in the same college.
Okay, he was in ICAT.
He was also in ICAT. He was in undergrad. I was in postgrad.
Okay.
And we were in the same company as well as game programmers in Goa.
Okay.
And we used to discuss back then, but it never materialized.
Mhm.
Actually, let's quit our jobs. We didn't have that confidence. Let's quit it and let's do it. In fact, Govardhan quit his job in 2013 itself.
Okay.
And he asked me to join him, but I wasn't confident enough ki can we really pull this off? What kind of games will we make?
It was early.
I thought I need a little more experience, a little more base, a little more money at least to survive, to sustain ourselves.
Yeah. But also because at that time most of the indie studios were surviving on servicing.
Yeah. Yes.
We were also doing the same thing. I started in 2011 to 2014. We only did servicing.
Yeah.
We did nothing else, and cracking a servicing project was also a huge task, man.
Yeah, there were hardly any indie studios, so-called indie
Yeah.
studios. There were very few. Like you could count on the fingers.
And all of us went to US.
All of us went to US. That was much later.
Dude, I'll come to that. But it was damn fun, man. Everything that you're saying, it's just taking me back to all
nostalgia.
Yeah, man, it's crazy, lovely. Yeah. So then you guys decided to start.
Yeah. So in 2014, Govardhan left for China.
Okay.
I also quit my job and I went indie.
Okay.
And Govardhan left for China for the job. He got a job offer in China, and I started my own journey. And I thought, let's just make a game. I didn't have any idea how it will turn out, what it will be. Like those ideas weren't formed back then. All I wanted to know, I want to make a good game. That's all I knew. And during that phase, after I quit my job, I moved to Bhopal. So I'm from Bhopal. I moved to my parents and just started working on a small game. And I worked day and night. I spent almost like 14 to 16 hours non-stop for like 3 months. And I put in everything in that. And that was a game called Super Nano Jumpers.
I know.
And then PGC was happening for the first time in India.
Dude, okay, before you go into the PGC and everything, let me tell you how did we meet first. I have a very fond memory of that.
I also remember that very nicely.
There was a event in Mumbai,
Mm.
which is pre-PGC event
Right.
called Game Hack competition,
Mhm.
and 20 of us were pitching in that event. I specifically remember sitting next to you.
Yes. I specifically remember coming to your next seat and sitting next to you.
And then the very first conversation we had was, I asked you from where are you from, and you said Bhopal.
Mm.
First you switched between Indore and Bhopal,
Mm.
and then when you said Bhopal, I still remember we both imitating Surma Bhopali. I'm like, yaar,
Alaka kya कर रहा हो?
क्या कर रहे हो यार, Surma Bhopali. But that event, dude, that was a game changer,
Yeah.
dude. For me, of course, for you also, because I think I have seen your journey. Like I have been there throughout your journey. That game at Mumbai, I think you were second.
No, I didn't win.
You didn't win.
You were the winner.
Skatelander won the first one, but 5 of us were sent to
Yes.
PGC
Yes.
in the finals,
Yes.
which happened in Bangalore
Yes.
2 months later.
Yes.
That was a game changer, dude. Oh my god, what an event! It was a kick-ass event that happened. And I don't think IGDC was that big at that time. It was doing decent.
Mm.
But PGC was like full on international, and it had all the nicer elements into it. The big indie pitch,
Yes.
man, the big indie pitch got me goosebumps every time I talk about it. Fuck, all these international publications,
Yeah.
Steel Media,
Yes,
Pocket Gamer. I think Touch Arcade was
Touch
also
Arcade
there.
was also there.
All of them sitting. These are the goosebumps sitting there, and you, me, and there are 20 other people pitching to them. Speed dating happening.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
I mean,
That
talk
was an
about that.
experience, yeah.
Talk about that, man, because that had an outcome which I'm sure changed your life.
Yes, definitely. I think that made the most impact in my life. And this was the first wave, I would say, the first wave of indie game developers
Absolutely.
started.
Absolutely.
It made a lot of careers.
Yeah.
Because it gave you confidence, it gave you the exposure,
Yeah.
it gave you connections in the industry with the international media people, as you said, the
Yeah.
international judges from different publications.
Yeah.
That was an
Yeah,
experience of a lifetime.
we only read about successful games on their websites,
Yeah.
and these people who wrote those articles are sitting in front of us,
Yeah.
and we are pitching our games to them. It
Yeah.
was crazy, bro. It was
Yeah.
crazy. I remember an incident in that event itself, and I really want to talk. I want you to talk more about the overall experience of PGC, but the indie wave that you're talking about, right? During that time, you also know Apple team, Apple India, and there was no India, SEA region was there.
Yeah,
Apple SEA was
SEA
there,
was there.
Southeast Asia, and then Google Play India.
Yeah.
For all those who don't know, everybody had badges on them for any event, but only the Google and the Apple guys never used to wear those badges, because then people like us
People
would
just swarm them otherwise, no?
people were chasing them. But that event, something happened for us also, but I'll talk about that later. I want to hear your story and the whole experience.
So yeah, I submitted. Unfortunately, we didn't win the game hack where your game Skatelander won in Mumbai. But as you said, the top 5 games were sent to the Bangalore, where the final pitch was supposed to happen in front of the juries, where the speed dating was happening, where we were pitching to these different judges, and I remember I came in the top 5 and I had to go on the stage, and this was all happening live, and I was very fortunate that my game won over there. The prize money was 10 lakh rupees, and it was huge pay.
Huge money.
It was life changing for me.
Yeah.
Because at that time it was all the savings that I made from those 4 years of my game development, I was living on that. And I didn't had any idea ki where will I take this game.
Yeah.
But that winning that game changed my perspective and gave me the confidence ki nahi, I can do it.
Yeah, yeah.
This is possible.
Yeah.
And this was the first time when my parents also believed कि
Yeah,
नहीं, कुछ ना कुछ तो कर लेगा, like he will
He'll
do
do it.
something,
Yeah.
at least out of it. So they were also very proud and happy.
Yeah.
And this, after winning that 10 lakh rupees, the first thing that I did was buy a Mac and an iOS
Yeah,
phone.
because you wanted to port it to iOS.
because I couldn't afford.
Not for fun, guys.
Not for fun. Because I wanted to port it to iOS and make an iOS build.
Yeah.
And I spent 2.5 lakhs visiting US
Yeah.
in a casual connect
Casual
event.
connect, yeah.
Yeah.
That was crazy, man.
So I spent half of it,
Yeah.
invested back in.
Nice, nice.
But that event was life changing, and this was the first time when I connected with Apple. And
The Apple story, the same thing. Like you're talking about the wave of indie, right?
Yeah.
It actually was.
Yeah.
There were roughly around 10 games that came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Everybody at the same
Same
stage.
level, same stage.
Playing ground was like equal,
Mm.
and everybody wanted to actually get to a global recognition kind of. My game was just about to release. Like 20 days later, my game was about to release, Skatelander, and there's one particular guy that we all know who was very popular. I went to him, like somebody told me that, and I had no clue that you have to actually go to Apple and Google to get your game featured. I was under an impression that you put your
Just
game out
release your game.
and and people still think about that, right? So aa jayega ranking mein and then it'll get featured. So somebody just told me that aisa nahi hota, you have to speak to them. So and they pointed me to this guy. His game got featured before this, and so you just go and talk to him and all that. I went to him, and I didn't have like many conversations with him before. So I went to him and I was like, "This is the game, and my game is about to release. Can you give me a contact of Apple so that I can reach out to them?" The most cliched answer that this guy gave me was, "I had a contact in Apple. Unfortunately, he quit last week." I was like, "Fine, cool."
But that was really the case at that time. He was just quitting. Because I was told by
I
the
don't
same
know,
guy.
man. Okay, I don't know, man. I don't actually see. If you want to help someone, right, you will do it.
Yeah.
In any case,
Yeah.
there's no one contact. There's a contact of contact. Do you think the guy who quit didn't give him the other contact? It always happens, right?
That happens.
Yeah. So if you want to help, you will definitely go to that extent and you'll help. So that happened, and I was very sad. And I didn't have that because I was screwed. Like in my head, I was like, "Fuck! I didn't know about this. I could have started researching about this 2 months back." All of a sudden, while the event was ending, a guy comes at our booth, plays the game, and while leaving, he just slides a card in my pocket and he leaves. And then he leaves, and then I see the card, and he's the Apple guy. He's the new Apple guy. And then eventually I went back and set up a call, and a game got featured in 130 countries on the day of release. Crazy, man. But yeah, I mean, that was the case. And see, the thing is that indie wave came at that time. But I was having another conversation with Rahul also the other day. The collaboration efforts was very less. People were not really supporting each other. Everybody wanted to, everybody was running a race, but only few wanted to, and they wanted to win, but alone. They didn't want to, handhold and take people with them. That situation has completely changed today. I'm very glad and happy to see all of us, supporting each other so much in every aspect. But yeah, that event was a game changer for everybody, bro.
Yeah, I remember it was competitive back then, but I was fortunate that I had some industry leaders back then who actually supported me a lot, and they introduced me to Apple.
Okay.
So I was fortunate to have those kind of mentors who helped me break the code.
Correct.
And and they mentored me. I always used to bug them. I always used to ask them, and they always helped me out. So I was, I think, on the fortunate side, I guess.
Cool, man. Then Xigma Games. There's a long journey. You started in 2013,
2014 end.
14 end. So this is the 10th year, man.
Yeah, almost.
Crazy 10th year, bootstrapped. I want to know about that journey. Just after, I think, Super Nano Jumpers, and I'm sure that game didn't do really well. But
Yeah, financially.
Rubic did well for you guys.
Yes. So when I was making Super Nano Jumpers, I realized that it's a good game to pitch. It's a good game to tell a story.
Yeah.
Because when you're pitching to someone, you are telling a story.
Yeah.
You're selling a story. But when you release a game, it's a completely different game.
Absolutely.
Then a lot of different factors come in, like product market fit. It's where does it position, where your product is positioned in the market.
Yeah.
And how are you monetizing it? How are you selling it?
Hmm.
And is it something very unique and very best in that particular genre?
Yeah.
And does it actually have a market or not?
Got
So
it.
I didn't have that understanding back then. But by talking to a lot of people and by, I think, trial and error, I soon realized that Super Nano Jumpers will not make a lot of money. So I had to think of something which will make us some money.
Yeah.
Now we had that 10 lakh rupees.
Yeah.
And I remember this, Govardhan messaged me that he's quitting his job from China
Yeah.
and he wants to join up. I said, Aja, come, we'll start our own studio.
Got it.
And I told him, let's move to Bangalore. Now, why Bangalore? Because back then, a lot of video games meetups were happening in Bangalore, and I
Yeah.
saw this community rising in Bangalore where people were talking about games,
Yeah.
meeting, and there were companies like Dhruva was started in Bangalore,
Yeah.
Zynga was in Bangalore. So there was already a good base
Correct.
of talent available in Bangalore, and I knew one thing, that if you want to start something, you go to the best city.
Best city. Yeah.
Because as how San Francisco is for US.
Yeah.
So I somehow convinced my parents that I want to move to Bangalore,
Yeah.
and they said, you have very limited savings, how will you sustain
Yeah.
yourself? I said, we'll manage. We'll
Maggie calling me.
मैगी खा लेंगे. सही में मैगी खाई है हमने यार.
Of course. Everybody has done that, man.
मैंने गोवा में से बड़ा पाव खाया है 1 साल तक. रस आमलेट, I still remember that. तो ऐसे भी दिन देखे.
Yeah.
But yeah, it has been a lot of good learning.
Yeah.
And that was the time. फिर when Govardhan came back from China, we both moved to Bangalore in 2016. And at that time, I started researching about market a lot. At that time, I had a lot more understanding of market कि क्या game sell होता है,
Yeah.
what is Apple featuring, how Apple features the game.
I see a big difference. In the mentality, the
Okay.
shift in the mentality.
Yeah.
Super Nano Jumpers, something that you wanted to make.
Hmm.
Rubic,
Hmm.
something that the market wanted.
Definitely.
I think that's the shift that you had
Yeah.
after researching and
Yes.
that. And then it was a perfect game at a perfect time, because those kind of games at that time were killing it.
Yeah, we looked at the App Store.
Yeah.
I just studied App Store because every week the App Store was used to get refreshed.
Yeah.
And the new games were getting featured on
Thursday.
Friday.
Thursday or Friday,
night or
yeah.
Friday in India.
Yeah.
Thursday in US. As in something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, Thursday, Friday. Then I studied कि all these minimalist puzzle games were
Correct.
getting featured,
Yeah.
and they were premium games.
Yeah.
At that time, premium games were still popular, and you could still make some money, because I saw some of the examples from the previous some indie developers who made these kind of games, and they were successful.
Yeah.
And this was the niche we thought we could crack,
Hmm.
and that's why the idea of Rubic came in. That was I had this paper prototype.
Yeah.
I remember making a paper prototype from just a cube and just rolling on the
Yeah.
floor, on the paper itself, and that's how I designed the game initially. And that was my first
Like a proper classic,
proper game
classic
design.
game design.
Huh. So and Govardhan, I said Govardhan will take over the coding.
Okay.
I will not continue coding games anymore, and because Govardhan is far better in coding than me.
Yeah.
And that's how we both partnered up. Govardhan will do the game development. I will do the art and design
Got it. So you launched it on mobile and PC both.
Yeah. Our whole idea was to go multi-platform.
Okay.
Why leave a platform when you have an opportunity?
Correct.
And our whole thesis was built around getting our game featured on the Apple.
Yeah, dude, that was a big deal at that
Yeah,
time.
it was a very big deal. It was a very big deal getting a game featured globally.
Yeah.
That too in US from
Yeah,
India.
Yeah. You just for the people who don't know, if you if you don't have your game featured, you would probably get 5,000 downloads a day, versus if you get featured, it would go to 70-80,000 a day.
No, this was far lower. Even if you don't get featured, I would say you would hardly get 100 to 500
Yeah.
downloads.
Yeah.
And if you get featured, you will get 20 to 40,000 downloads in the first week itself. And we had this data.
Okay. We actually, ours was a little bit different. Maybe it was early.
Huh.
We used to get like 80,000, 70 to 80,000
That was
downloads.
2013, 2014,
14,
I guess.
15,
Yes.
14, 15, early 15.
Yes. And by that 2016, that number would have dropped.
Today it's
Yeah. And
no
for
relevance.
people who don't know like how much significant a featuring like put in. So let's imagine you're going to a store and you're going to a bookstore and you are shopping for a book. The first thing that you will see is the books that are kept on the shelves, and that's where your eyes will go.
Right there in the
Unless you are specifically going to find a specific book.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing. If your game is featured on the App Store, it's right there in the front.
Yeah.
And back then we didn't had any marketing money. So how could we solve this with zero marketing money? So this was the only way for us.
Yeah.
We pitch it to Apple, and if Apple loves it, and this was completely, so people don't also realize that people think that Apple featured by paying money
No way.
so it wasn't like that at all. It was all critically, they used to assess the game like anything.
Dude, I've been to like whenever I was in Bangalore or Apple was in Bangalore, right?
Apple was also in Bangalore and also in Delhi. Yes.
Yeah, but whenever I was in Apple in Bangalore, I used to see you there. Because you used to be so much in contact with these guys every now and then, trying to show them your game and your progress of the game, and that's how you got, that's how you get the featuring spots, because you need to keep them.
And Apple actually has to love the game first.
Exactly.
They actually go through a long process.
Yeah.
And these games are then goes to the editors, and then editor finalizes like who are the games that are worthy of getting featured, because they also want the best games out there.
Correct.
So getting a feature was a huge deal back then. So Rubic, I think we had about 3 lakhs money in our bank account. Govardhan had some savings. I had some savings left from that prize money, and all we had was 8 months ka runway.
Okay. And only 2 of you.
And only 2 of us back then.
Yeah.
Living in a 1 BHK small flat, moved to Bangalore. We made a game from sitting from a hall, and we decided to finish the game anyhow in 6 months.
Okay.
Because that's how much our runway was.
Obviously.
When we released that game, it got featured by Apple, and it did great. Like we were like, okay, we cracked it.
Ban
gaya. So I will share the numbers. So I think when we were featured, we sold almost 20,000 copies in the first week itself.
Wow.
And priced at 1.99 USD.
Okay.
So that was good enough amount for us to sustain
30-35 lakhs.
30-35 lakhs almost.
Amazing, man. But that was only on Apple, and you
That
also
was
did it on PC and other platforms.
Yes, we later released it on Steam as well. But Steam, I would say, it was hardly 10% of our total revenue.
Got it. Steam actually was very tricky also at that time. It was greenlit and all that stuff.
Yeah, greenlit.
Very community driven.
Yeah. Back then, greenlit used to be there, so community has to vote if your game gets to be on Steam or not.
Yeah.
But it wasn't a game which was designed for Steam. We just put it out there.
Yeah,
just
because you had it.
We said why not?
Yeah. Cool. So Rubic happened, and then the big shift to a bigger version.
Yeah.
Bonfire.
As we even though we were successful, I realized that we can't continue with the same genre, because I saw a decline in featuring of these minimalist games, because now Now there were hundreds of these kind
Yeah,
of
yeah.
games.
It at one point it got
The
saturated.
saturation,
Yeah.
the saturation level has come. So again, got back to a lot of research, and it was Govardhan's actually idea to work on a simulation game.
Okay.
He was inspired from a game called A Dark Room, which was a web-based game.
Yeah.
And Govardhan said that let's do one similar game but with graphics. A Dark Room was a web-based game with no visuals. It just had buttons.
Okay.
There was no visuals. There was no art. You would just click buttons and you progress.
Got it.
So Govardhan had this idea, why not make something similar in a different setup, in a different theme, but with graphics.
Okay.
And we started working on that game. So that's where the Bonfire series started for us.
Bonfire was crazy, man. Like I had no, like I was not expecting such a game from indie studios in India, because the genre is difficult to crack.
Yeah.
And all of us were actually, all of us wanted to make a game which could be a global hit, but we still we were playing safe. Like the ideas were like okay, like and doable ideas. Simulation and this kind of an idea where there is a day and night cycle and it goes and on and on and on. I am sure that testing phase would have been like a tiring process for you.
That came much later
Yeah.
for the Bonfire 2. For Bonfire 1, the scope was a little limited because the money we had was only we could sustain for 1.5 years, 1 year.
Okay.
And that was the time frame. So we always, when we were making games, we had this DNA of like what our core values are. So we looked at 3 things. We looked at, first thing was the kind of games we as developers, we as gamers want to make. The second thing we looked at, is there a market for it? Can we sell it? Can we make money out of it?
Yeah.
And if yes, how?
Right.
We actually did a lot of research around it. How can we sell it? We actually focused a lot on the distribution. And the third thing was, do we have enough resources? Will it require 10 people? Will it require 20 people? We don't have that kind of resources. So can we actually make something like this? So that's where the Bonfire was whole formed. Okay, we are just 2 people, and we had 1.5 years of runway, and we want to release something in this time frame which actually makes money. And had to be a premium game, because free to play for just 2 people team was just not possible.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, what was the reason you went into premium games?
So first of all, we had this.
Because I think you are one of the very few studios who did that. All of us were doing free to play only.
Yeah.
It was, I don't know, we were betting more on the ad side of it, but you majorly focused on the premium side.
Yeah.
Why?
At that time, we looked at the market actually. We looked at the kind of games that were getting featured, and our whole distribution idea was around us getting featured and pitching it to Apple. And when we looked at the App Store, there were still games getting featured on the App Store which were premium games. And they were making decent revenue. At least good enough for the smaller teams. So we knew we didn't have the experience of a free-to-play back then. And we didn't even have the team and the resources required to make something as big as free-to-play, because it has a lot more elements.
Correct.
So we knew from the starting we'll target this very niche genre. So we wanted to be somewhere where big studios, like, it's not profitable for these big studios. And these small studios can't reach there.
Got it.
So we wanted to be in that bracket where we wanted to make a quality games, give an experience.
Right.
And that's what the Bonfire was all about.
So you got a publisher for the game.
Yeah.
Firstly, like before we dig deep into the publishing route, explain what a publisher does. Who is a publisher?
So publisher is someone who helps you market the game, who helps you localize the game, who helps you manage community, and in return they take some split of revenue for that service. And he's the one promoting your game. He's the one who is actually, selling the game from his account.
Got it.
And you are just getting some revenue split out of it.
Yeah.
and the revenue split can vary from 30% to 50% depending on the deal.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't know, but these publishers also provide minimum guarantee, which is known as MG.
MG.
It took us almost 14 months to finish the whole game.
Okay, 14 months. Bonfire 1 was done.
Bonfire 1 was done, and it was just 2 of us. The gameplay was just 4 to 4.5 hours long.
Okay.
And honestly, at that time we didn't expect, even we didn't expect to do it so well.
Okay.
And when the game was released, this was the first time when the game of the
I know.
day
There
was happening.
Yeah, and you got featured.
Yeah, and we were featured on the game of the day. We were featured on the US with a banner feature.
Yeah.
And to get a banner feature in US, that too at a very good spot.
Right.
It had a lot of impressions.
Yeah.
Lot of conversions, so
Yeah.
it just blew up.
Yeah.
And it reached top charts in US in top 5 RPG, top 5 strategy. From there it just went like this.
Yeah.
And from Rubic we just from what we started from Rubic, we were expecting somewhere around similar revenue.
Yeah.
But this did like 4x, 5x in the first month itself.
Wow.
And this was the first time we saw 8 figures in our account, and just within 1 month.
Wow. That's crazy, man. That's crazy. But how was the experience working with a publisher?
So later on, we went to Casual Connect to showcase our game in Singapore,
Okay.
and that's where we met our publisher. At that time, we didn't had any deal back then, but we were in touch with them. We continued to send them bills. We always had conversation. So our plan was to release the game on iOS and Steam on our own,
Okay.
and then go with a publisher only on Android, because Android was something that we couldn't solve back
Yeah,
then.
yeah.
Honestly, there wasn't much support from Google.
I know.
Back
Maybe
then.
I'll talk about that in one of the podcasts for sure, in detail.
Yeah, Apple was very supportive.
Very supportive.
Very supportive to indies, but Google wasn't that supportive,
Yeah,
honestly.
Yeah.
Even though when we
And
reached
rude.
out, don't even get me started on that.
And rude, and I don't know, man. It was a small team,
Yeah, it was a small
and
team.
it's understandable, but not not so much that you just shoo away indies and feature the games from the
Big studios.
Big studios. Yeah, so that's a long story. I'll talk about it someday.
So we couldn't crack Google. We knew that we couldn't release it on Google, and there wasn't much featuring support, and we didn't have the marketing money also. We didn't want
Yeah.
to put in because it was a premium game, so
Correct.
it didn't make sense for us to do a user acquisition for that.
Correct.
It was on Android. It's about 30 minutes free to. It's a free to download game with
Okay.
30 minutes free to play, and then if you have to continue, you have to pay 3.99 USD
Okay.
to unlock the full game.
Got it.
So yeah, publisher, I think they did a great job with it.
Who was the publisher?
The publisher was Fred Bear Games.
Fred Bear.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fred Bear. Yeah.
Okay. Crazy, man. And then overall, it was a success. It
Yeah.
was absolute success for you. How much? I don't want to get into the exact number, but how much runway did that give you?
It gave us enough to survive for 3 years.
Wow, that's big.
Yeah, and to run a
But
team.
then by that time you also increase your team, no?
Yeah, we went from 2 to 4.
Yeah.
So it gave us enough to sustain for 3 to 4 years with a team of 4-5 people. To run a team of 4-5 people, and that's how we
Nice.
grew from
Nice.
2 to 4 people.
Nice. And then the very next thing you did was you got into Bonfire 2. Did you have this thought way before that, this is a category that we think we are really good at? These are the libraries that we are building now, and we can actually utilize these libraries and expand on it and build bigger games. Was that clear in your head, or it just slowly got translated into it?
Yeah, so after the success of the Bonfire 1, the most amount of reviews that we got was from players that we got was that we wanted to play more.
Okay.
It had about 60% completion rate, and there was reviews filled with, "Okay, why is it so short? Why is it just 4.5 hours long?" And that's when we thought, oh, this can be something big. We can continue making in a similar IP, we can keep the core same, which people really enjoyed, and then we can expand by adding more layers, by adding more features to it. Then what we did, we used the base code of Bonfire 1 and then moved it to Bonfire 2. So a lot of resources, a lot of code that we wrote, like localization, like different party support, SDK support, different platform support. So all of those were written for our previous game, Rubic, the Bonfire 1. So we made them as libraries, and then started using them directly. So it saved a lot of our time. And that's when we started thinking of making these tools, in-house tools, to make strategy games. So the shift from Bonfire 1 to Bonfire 2 was also very big for us, because Bonfire 1 was only 2D game on a 2D plane. And Bonfire 2 we went completely 3D for the first time. And we kept the core thesis, the core feel, the core soul of the game, I would say, as same. It had the same concept, but we just added more layers to it.
It was beautiful. The artwork was beautiful, man.
So regarding the artwork, I was the one who actually have done the artwork for Bonfire 2. So I had worn multiple hats like across my game dev journey.
And
I built it in Pro Builder. I used Pro Builder. Pro Builder is available on Unity.
I know Unity.
Yeah,
crazy. Cool. So Bonfire 1, Bonfire 2. I'm sure Bonfire 2 also did really well for you. One of the memorable IPs, if you ask me, that India has produced in the last 15 years, Bonfire definitely comes in the top 10 IPs that India has produced. And I'm really happy and glad that you are the guy who did it, because I've seen you, man. You're my little brother. I've seen you growing throughout the journey. Didn't you, like, you shifted, now you're building a new game, the third game, I would say, like not the third, it's obviously the fifth or sixth game, but as IP, as you can say, like it's a bigger IP, Metal Heaven is something that you're working on today. Before I get into the details of the game, tell me what made you go into a new IP and not continuing the Bonfire series?
So the Bonfire 2 took us almost 2.5 years. And I would say this was the most painful, the most stressful, I think we have put in everything into that. So it was a huge task, making that game, testing that game, releasing that game, because there's so many different elements involved. Because games, as you know, are the culmination of all art forms. There's design, there's art, there's programming, there's music, and then all has to work cohesively. And that's what makes it an experience. And that too made interactive, like how amazing that is. I get goosebumps by saying that.
And on top of everything, there has to be a great storytelling that has to happen throughout the game, right?
So we had a different lore for Bonfire 1 and Bonfire 2 as well. We have a deeper, we don't say a story directly, but it's happening in the background, but people actually related to that. People actually understood People discovered it. It's more of a discovery. So there are different ways of telling stories in games, different narration style. So we went with something which is more in the back end, not on the front face, but you discover it along the way.
True.
So with Bonfire 2, I think we put in everything that we could, and those two, and the last 6 months was very painful. So many sleepless nights, and this was a time when, like, people don't know this, but there was I can't say a lot, but there was let's just say there was $1 trillion company who actually selected us for a service which they were launching back in 2020, and we were the first one to actually got selected in that. And we went through that process for some time, but unfortunately they dropped us.
I know.
And like that blew us up. Like we were like, okay, this money was supposed to come in for development to continue this game, because this has taken us a lot longer than we were expecting, and it's a lot more higher scope. but we took positive out of it. We pushed through.
Yeah. Do you hate that fruit now?
No man, it happened for the good, and I would say whatever happens for the good, because then we wouldn't have been able to go to the other platforms.
Yeah.
Our revenue started crossing from just Android than what we were making before from iOS.
Okay.
Where iOS used to be our major chunk of revenue.
Mm.
Now Android was on the top
Wow.
after the Bonfire 2 release. So and that changed a lot of perspective for us, and we learned a lot. We realized one thing: premium games have a ceiling
Mm.
on it, like especially on phones.
Yeah.
And this was a time when the trend was going down for premium games.
Yeah.
Since our Android game was doing far better, and in this time the monetization was, you play for half an hour, then you keep watching ads to continue playing.
Yeah.
So they were rewarded ads now this time.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you just pay one extra purchase to remove the ads.
Mm-hmm.
And this model worked so well for us, and we were not expecting this. And this was our publisher's idea
Got it.
to actually implement something like this. He suggested us, and that worked great for us.
So that learning made you like the shift in the mindset from a premium. To F2P.
Yes.
Free to play.
So that was the moment, because we realized that our majority of the revenue is coming from mobile.
Yeah.
Hardly 10% of our revenue comes from other platforms, including consoles and PC. Let's keep this Bonfire series on the side for a moment.
Okay.
And start something fresh.
Okay.
Sometimes it's scary because but we have been through that process for so many times.
Yeah.
We just jumped into it, and that's where the idea of Metal Haven came in.
Got it.
So we were making these tools for past 5-6 years on strategy games. So we took whatever the best parts were and whatever our learnings was from the Bonfire 1 to Bonfire 2 to Metal Haven, and we kept the core same.
Okay.
And we invested so much time just making that core a lot more perfect.
Got it.
So, and we moved from the medieval setting to a sci-fi setting, because we were also exhausted with, honestly speaking, we were also exhausted with the Bonfire series, and we wanted to give it a pause for some time.
Yeah. Also, like I've done theater, right? So theater पे ना एक वो है quote है, एक saying है कि there are few plays that are longest running plays. Like if you know Nata Samrat is Indian history is like India's one of the biggest plays. It's in Marathi, but it is done in all the other languages also. The last thing was done was converted into a movie by Nana Patekar. Right, like it's an epic play. It's a massive epic play. So there's a saying that the real play is a play which ends within its journey when people don't want it to stop. So when people actually like जब वो सब होके जो डिक्लाइन में बंद होता है ना तो उसको मजा नहीं आता है. When it's going on forever and people are actually wanting to see that, and when it stops, no, that's a real play. There's a real fun of it. I think Bonfire for you, I think acts something like that. But I'm so happy to see Metal Haven also. The quality that you guys have cracked is exceptional. Talk about it.
So Metal Haven is a sci-fi action strategy 4X game.
Okay.
Now what is 4X? 4X is explore, expand, exploit and exterminate.
Yeah.
Which culminates the all 4 factors in a game. So if you look at the gamer profile, so we have 4 different types of gamer profiles, as we know.
Correct.
Like a broad sense, in a broader sense.
Correct.
We have killers, we have achievers,
Explorers.
we have explorers, and we have socializers.
Yes.
And this genre actually focus on all 4 aspects. So this is something where it comes in the sweet middle spot.
Okay.
And the 4X origin happened with games like Orion, I think I remember Orion something, and Civilization, like we all know.
Yeah. Sigma.
Sigma Civilization, we all But that was the PC take of it.
Got it.
And then that genre has evolved a lot over time. From what people sometimes confuse it with Clash of Clans. But Clash of Clans is build and battle. You're not actually taking real time to move your unit from point A to point B.
Yeah.
You are just going, attacking, and you see the result.
Right.
You're going and actually deploying units and then see the results.
Right.
In this, you don't deploy the units.
Okay.
The time it takes for your army to move from point A to point B is in a real time, happening in the real. So even if you close your mobile or even if you close your device, it will still happen in the background.
Okay. That's
So that's where the asynchronous multiplayer comes in.
okay. So what stage are you in today?
So it's been 3 years in development.
It's already been 3 years.
Yeah, it's been 3 years in development.
Wow. Crazy, man.
Painful process. Huh?
A painful process.
Games are painful process, man. Like games.
People
takes
don't
time.
get that. People don't
Yeah,
get that.
people-
People are ready to just bash developers who are, pushing their limits, putting their homes on mortgage just to make the dream games that they are building, and then some 19-year-old kid will talk bullshit about
Yeah.
about bashing a game on YouTube.
And why don't we have a Wukong from India?
Yeah.
Are they just look at their budget, man? Like Wukong took $80 million, and they are veterans, like years and years of
Yes.
experience.
Yeah.
They were in Tencent before, worked on very different big IPs, then later on quit their jobs,
Yeah.
worked non-stop for like past 6-7 years on this Wukong and spent more than 80 million.
Yeah.
That game development is hard. It's very complex. It's harder than anything. It's not rocket science,
Of course,
but
of
it's
course.
very complex.
It's
process.
you need patience, bro. You need.
Yeah.
What's your take on the recent event that happened with Indus? Have you read
Yeah,
the
I've
whole
been
story?
following. Yes.
Some 19-year-old
Yeah.
kid, a YouTuber.
I think that is very unfortunate. These things shouldn't happen, but that's what it is. I think the industry is like that.
Yeah.
You can't do much. As developers, I think we have to protect ourselves first and our community and our developers first,
Yeah.
because that's what we care first, because these are the people that we are working with and
Yeah.
we care about most.
Yeah.
So I think that was a very unfortunate incident that happened and shouldn't have happened, but it is what it is. And
I strongly support super gaming for
I
this.
totally me too. I also
Because,
support Robbie. He
yeah,
has
yeah.
been a great mentor to me.
Of course. See, the thing is, let's say the game is bad. The team is open for feedback. You give them the feedback, and that's why we do playtesting and all,
Yeah.
right? The iterations happen when we see people, have people having those comments, those feedback. We try to improve those games. If you have something to say, you give a feedback, and people will take it. People will improve it. Happens with everybody. But you can't actually go to an extent where you have no clue how a game is made.
Yeah.
You're sitting in your bedroom, talking to your so-called followers about the game. Fine. About the company,
Yeah.
no. About the CEO, no.
Yeah,
The employees,
it shouldn't
no.
be personal, and if you are giving a feedback, it should be constructive feedback.
Exactly.
Because we all want to make good games. It's not like someone will deliberately do that.
Yeah.
And games are just hard. Like they are hard to produce, and these things happen not just to us, even to international developers.
Yeah.
Look at Cyberpunk. Look at that
Dude,
PlayStation.
it's goosebumps. Like last week I read Cyberpunk sold 30 million copies today.
Yeah.
Dude, the game was brutally bashed when it came out because of the bugs.
Yes.
And selling 30 million copies after that comeback is exceptional according to me.
Yeah. Definitely. And there was one more game that Planet wala game. I'm forgetting the name.
No Man's Sky.
No Man's Sky.
Yeah.
That was also very, very poorly
Received, yeah.
But they kept at it.
Yeah.
They kept going, because that's just how game development is.
Yeah.
It just takes time, and it's not gonna be about the first game. It's not gonna be our second game, but it's gonna be about eventual games that gonna be improved over
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the current plan is to soft launch the game next year. and based on that data, then we'll move on from there. And that's what I think enjoy in mobile a lot more compared to what I was doing when we were doing premium games. Because in premium, you get one shot.
Yeah.
If your game is released, either it will be very successful,
Yeah.
otherwise you grind it out and then try to make it sell, but it's very, very hard.
Yeah.
In the mobile side, you can actually release the game in one of the country, get some early data, track all the events, track how users are behaving, are they enjoying the game, are they quitting the game, what's the churn rate, starting from a very small game to now trying to make a game which is globally competing with some of the biggest companies known to the industry. I think it's very fun.
Crazy, man. I wish you all the best, man. Thank you for this conversation. Really enjoyed it.
Thank you so much, man. It's always a pleasure, man. It's always a pleasure.
If you reached to this part in the episode, I'm very sure you've liked the conversation that we had. If you like the video, please leave a like and start a conversation in the comment section below. We've also added the links to our guest in the description, so please do check out. Also, if you're finding this video or the channel for the first time, do consider subscribing to the channel because that will help us bring in more amazing guests on this podcast series. That's it for this episode. Thank you for watching the video.